This conference will now be recorded.
So, welcome to this afternoon's session on teaching physics remotely using Microsoft tools. There will be a similar one for Google tools tomorrow afternoon, same time tomorrow afternoon. I would just like to say a little bit of introduction. For those of you that are not familiar with GoToMeeting, then it is possible to use various controls. They do appear slightly different on slightly different devices. We will be communicating using the chat box. So as you would have seen from the initial welcome slide, we'd appreciate if you're not actually presenting in the session, if you could switch off both your microphone and camera so that we don't get any background noise or feedback or anything. If you want to ask questions, please use the chat box, and Alan Reid, one of the coaches, will be monitoring that, and there will be opportunities to ask questions during the session and to have some discussion, I think, in between the different inputs, and hopefully a bit of time at the end as well. If you've already switched off your camera and microphone, you should be familiar with the standard controls, and also the way in which you actually view the screen is up to you. You can decide on which camera view to use. I would suggest that you probably click on either who's talking or active cameras, just to make sure that you only see the cameras rather than everyone, where you'll just have lots of initials and names. And you can actually reduce the size of the camera window that you see to maximize the size of the actual screen that's been shared. It may well be for some of the screens the font size will be quite small, and if you want to just have a play around and make sure you maximize the screen size, that's probably be to your advantage. So that's the view options at the top of the screen, but then you can play around with the size of the margins and magnification on at least some devices. So just to reiterate the ground rules for today: keep your microphone and webcam off if you're not actually presenting, and ask questions through the chat box, and hopefully there will be plenty of time to have some discussion. If you have raised a question in the chat box and we want to follow that up actually orally, then we might ask you to switch on your microphone and camera at that point, but otherwise please keep them off. So I see at the moment that Lauren has got her camera on, right? She's just switched it off, so that's excellent. So I'm now going to hand over to Drew and stop. Oh, I've missed out a little bit, I'm afraid. One more slide before I hand over. It's just to remind you that for physics teachers in Scotland, our main communication is through the Sputnik email list, and also through Talk Physics. And something that you might not yet be fully aware of is that there is now a second group. Drew's been responsible for organising and setting up a second group called IOP Scotland Online CLPL, and that's where the details of the online CLPL sessions will be kept, and any follow-up links, including links to the recording, will appear on there. Not necessarily straight away. It does take a little bit of time to process the recording sometimes. And I would also like to remind you about visiting IOP Spark for the IOP resources more generally. So I think that now means that I'm on the right place to hand over. So I'll stop sharing my screen and hand over to Drew.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see such big numbers. We've got over 80 people in, so hopefully you'll get the opportunity to see a wide variety of tools that are under the umbrella of Microsoft 365 through Glow. Whilst I've used quite a few of these tools, the people who are presenting today are significantly better at both using and demonstrating them. So I've been luckily given the role of just introducing everybody. So we have Andrew Bailey, who's going to start us off with an overview of Microsoft Teams. So if I just make him a presenter just now, that should hand control to Andrew.
Thank you. There we go. Let's go for that. Share. Right, good afternoon to you all. Thanks for coming along, much appreciated. Right, so we're going to just have a look through some of the things that I've found have been quite a good idea to do when using Microsoft Teams, and basically try and model those for you as you see that. At least that's the idea here. I appreciate there's quite a lot of things I'm going to show you here, and you might be in quite different places, so I'll go reasonably slowly, but if there are questions, feel free to ask. And we've also got resources linked at the end that will show you quite a lot of these steps that you can do. So this is the Institute of Physics team that we've created to demonstrate for you. One of the things I was going to show you before I even do anything is if you want your teams in a different order, so you want the physics team further down the page, I'm literally dragging and dropping, and I can reorder it, or I can move it back to the top of the page like that. That took me quite a long time to realize such simple things like that. So that's just left click and drag down the page to reorder them. So you can see I've got my senior teams in order of age, for example, and some chemistry things down the bottom that I'm also a member of. So that can be quite good to view. Of course, you can have it viewed in a different way. I've got it viewed as a list. You can have it in the alternative view, that is the one with all the squares, which is the grid layout. That is in here too. So if we switch to that one, we see the other one. So you might have that view. Again, you can drag the teams across to change where they are from there. The settings cog at the top can change the view because I prefer them as a list myself, but so I'm going to go back to that one. Right, and close, and there we go. Right, so I think clarity is one of the key things that I think is really important for the team, for the instructions for the pupil. So all the teams come with this general channel that's here, and that comes by default, and you can't change the name of that channel. That one is fixed, but you can add new channels to do anything else that you want to do. And I'm going to show you a little bit of how you can do that. Now, the general channel has the post to the assignments, so these type of things, if you're using the assignment technique, and can have a whole load of other stuff. Now, you can quite often see that it becomes a bit crowded with a whole load of chatter and pictures and things and people who post memes and so forth on there, and you think, I don't really like that. I want to keep it really clear so the kids can see what to do and what the tasks are. So I can show you a little bit of how we can do that within the general channel. So the options for the channel are on the side here, these three dots. If you click on there, you can go to the manage channel scheme here. And what I would recommend in your team to have is the general channel to have it so that only the owners can post. Okay, so owners will in the main be teachers. This just means that the only posts that will appear on the page will be ones that you put. So that can help with the clarity to find the information and the settings. If you're not sure who is an owner, then you can click on the dots again and go to the manage team setting, and then you can see the owners at the top, and you can see the members, the pupils at the bottom here. If you've made a mistake and you've made the pupil the owner when they shouldn't be, so we can change Mr. Burrett here, and we can say, right, we can make him a member of the team, and then he will appear at the bottom there. Equally, if you've done that the other way around, you can change them to being owners as well. Okay, so you need to have the right roles there. If you do have teachers in your team as members, then if you are setting assignments, they get the assignment set for them as well, which may be a good thing, but maybe not. Okay, so there are some settings within the teams itself to do stuff, and it's mostly the permissions I was just going to have a brief look at here. So generally you've got this off because you don't want the pupils to create channels or delete them or do other things. There are some options in terms of whether you can edit or delete messages, and this comes down to this spot here. So delete messages or edit messages. So if you want pupils to be able to edit the messages, you can leave this function on here. If you want them to delete, you can leave that on there. I tend to have both of those off and just allow myself to do the deleting and editing. Depends on what the age of pupils happen to be. You can change permissions within here too. For example, the fun stuff here, these are the Giphies, the memes, the stickers. These are other rights for you as well. So if you turn these off, you're not able to post some of those things as well. Right, so back to the general channel here, and one of the things we're saying is to have manage the channel and to have it only as owners can post. Okay, so that means everything should become much clearer. Now, if you happen to have messages that are there that you didn't want there, you can go to the dots in the corner of the message and you can click on delete, and then it'll say the message has been deleted. You can't delete a group of messages, you have to delete individual ones. Although this says the message has been deleted, that will disappear with time. What doesn't change is if you go right to the start when it talks about adding pupils or changing their roles, those messages are there all the time, but they're just overtaken over time really. So if we want to add another channel to the team, we click the dots and we can add a name, and what I've been doing is having a team for the different topics that we've got. So we might have topic of waves, for example. You can put an extra description, doesn't really matter too much, and then this one here can matter because if you want it to show up to all the pupils immediately, you need to click that. If you don't click that, it'll show up for you, and then you can change the properties later on if you want. So if you want to prepare something and then kind of make it appear. Okay, so we've got a blank channel here, and the advantage of sometimes having channels for different themes or topics is that it can be really easy to see where the particular set of work happens to be. If I click on my higher channel, you can see we've been working on the orders of magnitude, the standard model, some more stuff on the standard model, so the kids know which bit to do from there. So there are some things that you can do within there. If you want to make it, if you want to have a channel that let's say is for chat, so you say I want some help, let's have some chat or some help channel. So you're saying, well, if you want to ask particular questions or you just want something that's a bit more informal, then you can do that, and you can add a channel for that would appear. And if you want, you can also edit the names of the channels, and you can rename them using emoji. So on Windows keyboard, if you press the Windows key and the dot, you can change, come up with the emoji keyboard, so you can have emoji names in there. So you could say, oh, there's somebody talking. I could put that one in, for example, and we could save the name. So you could have ones for waves and all sorts of other things if you fancy doing that. You can see I've done that for the chat one down there too. Right, so there are some other things that you want to have within your team structure as well, and these are the apps, and the tabs. So if you go to the top here, you can add a number of them. The one you do need to add is the Insights tab here, and this is how you can see who's been on the channel, who's been in your team, who's accessing the work. So you want to add that as the first thing that you do for that, so that you can monitor how many pupils are adding it. And what it would do is populate with the information, and it'll say when the pupils have been active, who's been inactive completely. So Mr. Farmer's not done very well, he's not been on today, but we could look over 7 days, a longer period of time, and get reports that way. So you can quickly see who's being active, and if you go to the details, you can you can actually see exactly what they're doing and what files they're clicking on and what they've got there. So I'm using this a lot to then notify my PCS staff to say what kids are doing and what kids aren't doing from there. Okay, so that's the Insights tab. The other thing that you want to be adding is if you have kids who are using Android phones, then and that's their only device, then there are some issues with seeing the files. So the Files tab comes within, let's have a look at the one in the General channel actually. So within the General channel, there's Files and there's this Class Materials folder. That is a read-only folder. And if kids are using the Android device, or indeed yourself, you may find that you can't actually see that. You can see the files, but you can't see any folders. It's a flaw in the app. So what I do is I add a link to this one here. So how to do that is you can click up here, open in SharePoint, and then this will open the browser up. From there, you may have to enter your Glow details. In fact, I will need to do that. From there, it's all gone a bit slow because everybody's on, obviously. There we go. Right, and that'll see the underlying sort of structure to this site here. And what I'm going to do to allow the pupils to see it is I'm going to collect this URL at the top, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to use Control-C, but you could right-click and choose the copy part. And I'm going to go back to my team, and I'm going to go back to my channel, and I'm going to click the plus here, and I'm going to add a website link. And I'm going to call that Class Materials, and I put this Android bit in because it's only the Android phone users that need that. And I've pasted in the URL from there. And this can help the kids see the files if you've uploaded files that they aren't able to see otherwise. They will get this message, so log in with their Glow account. Remember, the @glow.sch.uk is the bit you need to put on the end, or whatever's on the end of your email address if it's slightly different to count as a Microsoft account. Once you've done this part once, it then remembers it all from there. So it just gives us a link to those particular folders that were there from previously that they wouldn't be able to see otherwise. Okay, other things you can do is if there's really useful resources that you want either in a particular channel or in the general one, you can click here and you can add a website link, and then you can go to your website that you want. So for example, oops, need to move the toolbar at the top, there we go. And we could go to Mr. Mitchell's physics that he's just released today. And we could copy his web address, and we could say we want a link to that. And we could paste that in there. So there's a shortcut link to that particular location. You could do that to your school website or to any other particular resources that you've got. So when you click on that, it loads within Teams. There also gives you an option to load it outside the browser. So you can have a look at the particular options from there. Right, so a couple of other things to show you. So back within our posts here, for me, a lot of it's about clarity. So we said set the general channel so that it's really quite clear and it's not cluttered up with things. And then within that, you can post. Now, there's different choices for posting. If you go right to the bottom, you can post as an announcement if you click on the A letter right at the bottom of the screen there, and you get these pop-up selections here. And within there, you can have a conversation with the formatting or announcement. Now, you need to be on a PC to work the announcements. They're not on all the apps that are there, so you have to watch how you can do it. So you can put a big title For example, you can change backgrounds, you can change images. There are particular preloaded ones, so if you want to make a big announcement, you can click one of the announcement parts to make it look quite nice. You can type in, okay, and then you can try your message that you've happen to have here that you want the instructions. Now, there are a couple of things I want to look at in particular. So the announcements are clearer because they're much bigger. You can also post this in multiple channels. So if I say I want to post this not only within there, but I could post it within any of the other teams that I'm a member of, or I'm an owner of. So if I'm saying this is the ways work, so I'm going to post it in the general channel and also in there. I can update it, but you can see there's other lists too. So if I've got a number of different classes where the same post applies, I can post it in different places. So by doing one thing, I can share it everywhere, which can be really useful to do. Some of the clarity I think can come from having good links to things. So you could say, let's say, so open the website. So we're promoting Mr. Mitchell today. Now what we could do here, Mr. Mitchell Physics, is there's a link here, and we can add a link to the particular page that we've got. So we could go back to the browser, we can copy the URL website there, and we can paste in the link to insert it as a hyperlink there. So this can be really good for the instructions. If you're saying, go and watch this video, watch that video, do this, do that, it can be really good. Somebody was saying, can we link to files? And the answer is yes, you can. Now, within the app, what you can do is this post here will keep live, it'll keep recording it. So when you come back to the particular part, it'll still be there. So one of the things I can do is go to the files section and look at the files that I've uploaded to it. So you can see we've got a particular file here, and we've got this class materials folder. So the class materials folder is read-only, and anything outside that is not read-only. So if you put in a set of questions, you wouldn't want to put them here, because if you attach them for pupils, then the first person on there could write all the answers, and then as soon as the next person sees them, they would see all the same answers that were there. So that's okay with instructions, but it's not okay with other things. So if you go to the class materials folder, then you can click on the dots in the middle there, and you can copy the link to the file. And you can copy that link from there, and then we can go back, back to our post that we're writing down here. Where were we writing it? Down here? There we go. So we could say open this file. So the file may be in the Files tab, but rather than just saying go to the Files tab and find the speed of a wave file, we can add in the link to it like so. Okay, and then we can go down to the bottom and we can click to post. And that will post the message here, and it'll post it in the other channel as well. That's what it's saying. It's posted in various sections here. And you can see how it stands out and makes it really clear from there. If we've got something that we want to add to that, we can go back to it and we should be able to edit it, he says. In the top, normally it's the case. Somebody said beforehand, can you link to your OneDrive? And the answer is yes, you can. So if you had a file in your OneDrive open, so this is my OneDrive within Glow, you can do the same thing. You can find the files that you want. You can click on here. You want to click share rather than the copy the link this time. And then I would put either anybody with a link or people in Glow Scotland with a link. And then you're choosing as to whether you want them to edit or not. And then that'll give you the link. And then you can copy that link to where you want to share it. And if you do it as a hyperlink, it's nice and clear and works okay from that point of view. Okay, so I think that's the first bits that I really want to show you. And if you've got questions, then I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Andrew. That was really, really useful. I'm just wondering if Alan, who's been monitoring the chat, has got any questions that he can pass on.
Yeah, there's been a few questions come in. Actually, some of them answered in the chat, but possibly worth repeating anyway. But first one was Stuart Law was asking, if you set the channel so that only owners can post messages, can the students then comment on those posts?
Not if only the owners can post on the messages. What you can do is that's why I kind of set that one to be pupils only, owners only, and then in the other one I would have the pupils able to post and ask for help and things like that.
Okay, yeah. Jenny was asking about once you've created a channel, can you add a description after? But I think that was answered in the chat. You can do that. The only one you can't re-describe is the general channel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you're creating Insights tab, would it be sensible to unclick the post to channel for Insights? Adrian Sudworth was asking.
I tend to do that, but I don't think it matters massively. It just makes it more, there's less clutter if you're not saying, you only kind of want to put a post if you link to Mr. Mitchell's website and you really want them to look at that, it's quite good to post about that, but for other things, maybe less so.
Okay.
The Insights tab is visible to students within the team, but the information that it gives them is only theirs. So they're only ever aware of when they've been on.
Yeah. Good point, Drew.
There was a question about from Stuart about Insight not picking up on digital activity if it's on a mobile, and it sounds as though maybe it picks up some of that activity, but not all of it. Sarah reckons.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's certainly not nothing. It does pick up some of it. I can see Steve has asked about tagging. Good question. So to tag people, there's a few things that you can do for that. If you click the @ button, then it comes up with a list of the names, so you can start typing in the names, and then that will give them a particular notification. Now, if you go back and delete, you can delete the surname, so you don't have to have the whole name that you post. You can just leave the first name that's there, and if you do that, then the person will get a notification for that come up. So that's quite a helpful way for that to work. The other thing that's quite good too is if you here's a post from Sarah, for example, and if I click on here, and I thought it was particularly good, you can use the praise option here, and it loads up and it gives you a number of things that you can do, and you can tag in the person there, and you can say a comment. And then this one's a bit more ostentatious, but as you see, it comes out like that. So I've found it quite good to tag pupils in. They seem to reply better because they get the notifications, and obviously if you're using praise as well, the kids like that, and they seem to respond to that. That's one of the benefits I've had of sort of even having a bit more looser chat about things, because within class there's some degree of that taking place as well.
A couple of people, Andrew, have asked about adding insight to each channel, but as far as I understand it, the insight would give you an insight for the whole team, so there's no need to do that for each channel. Is that right?
I think that's right, yeah.
Okay.
I tend to add it to each one anyway, because then I can see it wherever I want to look at that.
Yeah.
And the praise is seen by them all. Yeah, that's true. There aren't private channels in the Glow Scotland teams set up yet. There is possible within teams to have channels that you add and you have like a group of kids working on something. We're trying to encourage them to adopt that. So if you think that's a good idea, contact your Glow key contact and your director of education and tell them that that would be a good feature that you'd like to see because it needs kind of improvement of all the local authorities to get in. So Glow's quite good because it's a large group. It's actually the second biggest Office 365 tenancy, they call it, in the world. So there's a lot of power with that, but it can be a bit frustrating that sometimes some of the features are missing because you need agreement of everybody.
Stuart's asked, is there a way of getting around not being able to attach files if you post in multiple channels at once?
Not being attached. Yeah, I mean, I always do hyperlinks rather than attachments of files. I think it's much better to do a hyperlink. It works much better than a direct attachment, would be my answer to that.
Okay, so then do you know, can you link to folders in OneDrive rather than just files?
Yes. Yeah, okay. You can do that. It's just checking what access rights you put on that. I would tend to copy from my OneDrive to my team situation, and that's really easy. If you're in OneDrive, let's have a look. Which browser are we in? There we go. This one here. If you were within this one here, so this is my folder that I happen to have, and I can just click on the side here, move or copy to, and then on the left that I can't see because I've maximized all the controls for this meeting. There's a list of your teams here, and you can click there, and you can click the class materials, and then you just click copy. So it's really easy to move the files. I would tend to move the files from my own space to the team as a long way as a better way of doing it. But that's really straightforward.
Okay, quite I suppose a big question from Rebecca. How would you set up assignments for pupils, and where would they submit their work?
Right. We'll maybe come back to that. Let's show some of the other bits, and we'll do a little bit on that. Is what I'm going to say for that, if that's okay.
Sorry, Drew, I'll just finish this one. If you set the insight to have a week after creating the class, can you still see the activity of the students for the past week? I think from personal experience, you can do it. It doesn't matter when you add the insights. You can do it right from
you can, and you can set the dates that it looks at as well, either in individual dates or range of dates. So just now I'm looking at sort of things like this is my fourth week of doing new stuff with my kids, so I've sort of looking at who's not been active at all in 4 weeks, and the PCS is chasing them, and that's only 1 or 2 kids, and then who was active in the first week and who isn't now, and things like that. It's really quite good. And if you do set up assignments and work like that, you can see who's handed in work to you as well, rather than just the clicks.
Right, that's great. Thank you very much. We're going to go on to Callum just now, who's going to give us an overview of quizzes, which may well include assignments and feedback. So that might help to answer some of the queries that we've had about that. If I just make Callum a presenter, you should have control now, Callum.
Yep, I forgot to unmute my mic before I took control there. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about forms, and I'll talk about assigning a form as an assignment. So I'll touch on assignments as well as part of that. I'm going to start with one of the most simple things that I was asked recently on how to actually get to forms. The easiest way for me is I have the Office 365 home on my Launchpad. That's the easiest way to get to the collection of all of the Office 365 toys, essentially. And when that loads up, there's a whole list of everything that you can get to, and Forms is down here at the bottom. And so when you click that, it opens up your Microsoft Forms sort of homepage. Now within that, we've got 2 different types of form you can create. You can create a form, which is more of an information gathering resource. So in our department, we've used that for this one here, which was what feedback should look like, where we were trying to get pupil voice information from the kids. And so we sent that out as a form so that we could get their feedback in as a sort of instantaneous response. the kids really liked it because they could all do it on their phone, so it got us more responses than we would have if it was any other method. But the one we're going to mainly focus on is this quiz. And I think in a time when we are unable to see our kids and we're trying to sort of digital teach, the quiz is going to come in really handy for a lot of people. So to create a new quiz, it's really simple. You click on new quiz. Don't know what else to say about that there. You give it a title. So test quiz. You can put in a wee description if you want. It's entirely up to you. And then get started on putting in what you actually want to get from the kids, so your information. We've got different choices or different types of question that we can have. So we've got a multiple choice question. So choose an answer. And I know that as physicists, we have 5 multiple choice options in our multiple choice paper. So you can get up to 5, and we could put actual multiple choice from the SQA papers in there and use that to quiz the kids. You select your correct answer by marking the tick. If you were doing a question and you wanted to have 2 correct answers, you have to change down here, down here for multiple answers, and you click that, and then you can have 2 correct answers marked so that the pupils can give both of those answers. You can choose how many points each question is worth, and what this will do is it will, at the end of the quiz, it will mark it for the pupil and tell them how well they've done, and give them their sort of score out of the total. Our next type of question, we've got a text question, and we have 2 types of text questions. We've got a long answer and a short answer. With the short answer, you can add in a bunch of correct answers. So if we were saying what is speed, and we could say, you know, distance in a given time, or you can add extra answers. Now, it's quite picky with this one. If the kids were to write distance in a given time full stop, it would mark it as wrong. But when we're talking about the feedback in a minute, I'll show you how you would correct that so that they can still get the mark. If you set it as a long answer question, you only have the ability to mark that afterwards. You can't put in a sort of long answer for it to mark. It will not mark that itself. Our next type of question, which is sort of more for feedback gathering, you can have them rate something. If you were using it for information gathering, you needed to know the date they were doing it. We've got the date function, and when they fill that in, you're choosing a date.
Somebody
I
just
found that I
asked
quite like a ranking question.
about the required
Sorry?
part there. Somebody just asking about the required part at the bottom there, Callum.
No worries, sorry. So basically, you set that as required. That will mean that the question must be answered, or the pupil can't submit the work. I usually set them all as required, just so that pupils have to come up with something. That's maybe a bit nasty of me, but I think it works in terms of making them think about an answer. Yeah, sorry, so the ranking question, you can put your options third, second, last, whatever you want, and they have to put them in the right order as their question. So I'll show you an example in a minute of one I put together. There's a couple other options here. We've got a Likert, which is mostly used to gauge like what people are thinking about something. So if you had a statement of, do you strongly agree if, and then they have to choose. So that's more for an information gathering rather than a quiz. But I thought I'd just put it on there to talk about it. So that's the cover of the main types of questions that you'll be using. Within those questions, you can add images to the question by clicking this box here. And if you click an image, you can search Bing for an image of, you just type in speed, it'll give you some cars or something. But you can also upload images that you've got yourself from your desktop. We were having some problems with issues of the image size being too big that it wasn't loading. So you want to try and have that as small an image as possible. So that's kind of the question types that you've got. What I'll do is I'll go back and I will show you one that I made, just a wee physics one. So multiple choice question, which of the following is not a scalar? I've got 2 correct answers there, and the kids just tick 2 of them. And with this one, I've added a subtitle. So if you click the 3 boxes down the bottom for the question, you can add a subtitle where I've said multiple answers may be available, just so that the kids know that they need to tick 2 to get it right. I've got a question here where I've uploaded a picture that I stole from SKA past paper of the travel that a drone did. I think it was last year's paper. That picture sometimes turns up, sometimes doesn't. I was getting kids to reload their page, and some were getting it and some weren't. And I know that someone on the physics team that we were having had trouble getting the image. I can't remember who was doing it now. But it's temperamental with images, so if you can avoid images, I would recommend it. And I've got a ranking question here that I want to show you. So I have to put the following in order from the largest acceleration to the smallest, and the kids will just drag them to the right order. That's kind of everything about creating a quiz, I think. But in terms of setting the quiz for the pupils, I would use Teams to do that. And so if I've come into the IOP team that we've got here and I've clicked on assignments, I'm going to go down to the create function and create quiz rather than create assignment. If you go to create quiz, it'll give you a list of all the quizzes that you've made in Microsoft Forms, and you can then attach that to the assignment that you're putting out. And it should load up here. Try that again. Quiz. Let's use that one because I know it works. There we go. And so the quiz loads up here as something the kids can access. You can choose to assign it to just the IOP Scotland test team, or you can choose any other team you've got and just add them in as well. And you can assign it to multiple classes at the same time, just by choosing this in the assign to. And you can also reduce the number of people it's going to by choosing specific pupils that you want it to go to, I believe. But you can't do that when you've got multiple classes. You can choose your due date, or you can set it up as a scheduled assignment. Just clicking that edit button at the bottom, you can schedule it to be released in the future. So if you wanted to set yourself up so that on a Monday you issued a set of work, and then on a Thursday you wanted a wee quiz to go out as a test, you could set up the quiz yourself and set it as a schedule to go out so that you don't have to remember and do it yourself. Just in case you get busy and forget, it'll go out automatically, and you choose its due date as well. Once you hit the assign function, it'll go out as a homework straight out there. So there it is there. Now, when it comes to reviewing that and giving feedback for the pupils, I go through the grades function, and it sort of gives you a list of who's been looking at things and what's been going on. And so I'm just going to open a random one of these, and you just click open student work, and it opens up their response to the quiz. And so you can scroll down and see how they've done. And so the self-marking is quite good. But say you needed to leave feedback to anyone for, say, a question, you click the little speech bubble there, and that'll allow you to give specific question-related feedback. But also at the top of the form, there's another bubble here, and that allows you to leave feedback as for the quiz overall. They only get the question-related feedback if they actually go into the quiz, but the overall pops up on their Microsoft Teams page, sort of in their view of the assignment. So we're going to this one and go to student view. So they get sort of feedback in this top right hand corner here. There's the list of what the feedback would be. I can't remember if that was everything I wanted to talk about, but does anyone have any questions at this point?
I was just going to say, if they want the detailed feedback, if you've typed it in, so the overall ones at the top, as you say, they would then click back on that forms quiz, and then they'd see it again. If you haven't posted the feedback back, you didn't actually show that bit.
Oh, true. Sorry.
And then when they click on it, it'll say they've already responded. So they do have to, you do have to do the posting bit for that bit to.
Sorry, yeah. So the posting bit there. If you've left questions, you need to click on these three dots here and post the scores. And once you've posted those scores, your feedback will go back to the pupils. Thank you, Andrew. So yeah, so any questions?
Well, I think Andrew and Sarah have been all over the chat there, so I think they've pretty much answered anything anybody's come up with. The only one maybe...
Delightful. That makes my life easier.
Yeah, maybe I missed this one, but Morag was asking if you want pupils to retry a quiz, does it have to be reassigned to them, or what would be the process there? How would you do
that? Good question. I haven't done that before.
Yeah, if you there's two options. If you can potentially you can delete their response and then they can do it again. That's within those three dots that Callum was on. Yeah. One of the options is delete response. That's probably not the best one to do, but if you did delete it, they could then go back and do it again, or you can reassign it again. And when you reassign it, when you create a new assignment, you can create from an existing one, so it'll automatically add all the instructions that are there. You probably want to wait to do that a little bit, because when you do that, you can assign it to as many pupils as you want, whereas if you assign that to one person and then you decide this later on somebody else hands it in and they need it doing again, you can end up with lots of sort of repeats, which can get a little bit messy in the grades part, because every time you put a new assignment in, it creates a new column in the grade sort of section there.
Yeah.
Pupils are notified with the feedback, Neil. Yeah. I have been telling them in the sort of overall feedback for quite a while to say some of that bits I've been putting in is click back on the quiz to see the detailed question feedback, because I was quite convinced that they weren't actually looking at that for quite a while. I do have a video I can share, which you can then share to the kids and say, watch this, because I found I did a survey with the kids and said, you know, are you reading my feedback? And 15 out of 50 of them said what feedback, and so I thought better show them how to get it.
So Dara's question there, if you have a question in the quiz with a short answer and they've added a full stop or some piece of punctuation or haven't got it letter for letter perfect, is it a case of you can go through it and override the grading, can't you? But it's not going to mark those automatically.
So when you come to this page with the answers on it, their one will say 0. If you just change it to 1, that marks it as correct, and that's that sorted.
What you can do, which is is if you go to the forms page and find the form in the groups part, Callum. So you want to go right group forms. Yeah, you can go to the group, the class that you've shared it with, which will be that one there. And when you go to the question again there, and look at the correct answers, you can then add in more. You can then add in another correct answer there. And so if all the kids are putting slightly the same answer that you haven't put in, it'll then mark that correct for all the future ones that are there. So I do that from time to time. But yeah, it can be a little bit of a pain because they misspell, like neutron, for example, or nucleus. Seems to be a pretty common thing. Or longitudinal for wave. Yeah, I'm not sure I can spell that one myself.
And for numerical answers with units, you would be amazed the number of permutations of significant figures, ways of presenting units with and without spaces, with all sorts of, it doesn't matter how many different combinations you can come up with, they will always find another one. So it's always worth going in and just checking. Yeah.
Quick question from Liz about using superscripts and that sort of thing in forms. Is there an easy way to do that, or is it they're going to have to be created somewhere else and copied and pasted in?
You can add to some questions the maths, where you have a sort of a subtitle where you can add a maths bit with subscripts, but only on the subtitle bit.
Okay.
So it sort of limits where we can put them.
And I think a question I've been asked a bit by colleagues recently, which Steve's asking, how do you share quizzes with other teachers?
All right, yep. So if you go up to share, you want to share as a template, and so you get a link to duplicate. And what that does is it sends the link to the staff member you want to share it with, and they will get a duplicate copy, so that doesn't affect your quiz and your pupils' results, but gives them a duplicate that they can use.
So if they then go to their Microsoft Forms webpage, signed in on their account, that will be there and they can edit it and reuse it.
That will be there, yeah. So if I go back to the main page here, one of my biology colleagues made this one and sent it across, and I duplicated it and handed it out to my class, and it's just the copy of what he did, but for me to share.
If you were an owner in the group as well, then you could reuse an assignment made in another team that you're an owner with. So if Callum's also teaching at my school and set an assignment for his National 5, and I'm an owner in his team, in his class, then I could choose the existing assignment from Callum and set that one at a time of my choosing if I want. So you can share kind of that way as well.
This question, I guess, maybe more for Drew or Stuart. Mike's asking if we could share. There's been loads of good information here really quickly and probably quite overwhelming for some people. Are we going to be able to share this video afterwards so that people can rewatch?
So the video will be shared. It takes a little while for the video of the session to render at the end. And then once Stuart has informed me of that, it'll be uploaded to my YouTube channel. And then the link will be pasted on Talk Physics in the IOP Scotland Online CLPL group. We are also going to weed through the chat and pull out any links from that and share those. We have, for the previous sessions, done that just through links dropped into a reply on the posts in the CLPL group. But there's another facility called Wakelet, which one of the other presenters is going to talk about later in the session, which is a nicer way of sharing all those links. So that'll be produced over the next day or two, and all that content should be available ideally within the next 48 hours.
Great. Do you have time for another question?
Yeah, fire away.
The one that's just come in, can you go over how Word document assignments would be set and marked rather than using Microsoft Forms?
Yeah. So if you go within assignments, again, you're going to go to the create function at the bottom and click assign. Basically, the add resources will allow you to add resources from your OneDrive, a OneNote page, a link, a new file, or upload it from your device.
Yeah, there are some in the teams. There are some in that team if you want to use them. Callum, I did put a file in.
That's true. So if I go into Teams, I'll be able to then find the IOP Scotland test team documents.
I think it's in the class materials. What is it? Yeah,
Yeah, I remember
there we
that
go.
now. Yeah, there we go. And so you click attach and it puts it in there. So by default, students can't edit this file, but they can download it and create their own. So that you can set it to students edit their own copy. So then they can write on their own copy and submit a copy of that. You can set how many points it's worth. You can have PDFs, any file you want, really. I'll just quickly assign that. And it just goes out.
I tend to have them myself. If it's a Word thing, I tend to select they get their own copy and they edit it, and then they can click on the file and write in their information. To do that, you need the later version. So you need a docx or a pptx or a xlsx file rather than just a doc file.
Yeah. When it comes to marking, when the student's handed in their work, it'll come up here as handed in when you open the assignment. And you can click it to open it up and view their work. Or again, you can go through the grades, and when they've submitted work, it'll come up here. And you just click on it, and it'll show you their work. And you can what comes up in the corner is a feedback box, and basically a score, so you can see their feedback and give them a score if it's a scored task.
Yeah, it's pretty clear with the Word documents. There's a big box, and you type in up to 1,000 characters for the feedback that you want to give the pupils. What you can do is, if it's a document, you can still go back on their document and type into that if you want to actually correct and make annotations on that, as well as the overall feedback. But it's the overall bit that they would see when they look back on the assignment that's there, and then you just click return to send it back to the pupils. I find it much easier than email, because it all goes to the same place, and then you can just click through and find that, because it's all collated. And then also the marks are in this mark book that you can see here as well, because I get so disorganized if people have sent it different ways. You know, whether they've shared it on Office or whether they've emailed it, I'm saying hand it in. The other thing they can do is, if they can't edit the document for some reason, they can attach photos of their work that they do. So quite a few of mine take a picture of bits of paper and upload it there as well, and that works pretty good.
I see that Jenny's asked about assigning Word in assignments or in class notebook. I've actually been getting my students to complete tasks in their class notebook and giving the feedback within there. Having toyed with putting the Word document into an assignment, I think that's the way I'll be going, because it's much less laborious. It's all in one place. If the Word document is editable, then if you have a set of questions and diagrams and any other images or anything else that goes with it, the students will be able to see that. They'll be able to respond to it within the same Word document, and it is their response that is returned to you with the assignment. And because it's all in one place, you don't have to go looking for it. And in order to get it handed in, the students have to click hand in, because you won't see their work until it is complete and handed in. So that it gets rid of some of the logistic difficulties with doing it that way. So if there are no further questions on Callum's part of the proceedings, I was going to move on to Rory, who is going to discuss Sway, which is a presentation tool that's built into the 365 package. I've just lost my presenter list though. Hang on, here we are. So if I set Rory as a presenter, you should have control now.
I do indeed. Thanks very much.
Great.
Okay, and go ahead and get started. So, yeah, so I thought I would talk a little bit about Sway, which is something I didn't know too much about until about 6 months ago. And I really like it, and the kids really like it as well. I think it's a presentation-based platform, a little bit like Word, and a little bit like PowerPoint. It kind of fills a void right in the middle of that. And I'm sure everyone will have experienced the frustration of setting work possibly in Teams, and the kids are moaning about they can't open a PowerPoint on their phone, or they open the Word document and the formatting's everywhere, or they're having to come bounce in and out of files to actually get access to what we want them to see. So out of that came Sway. Now, just to give an example, because I know it's really new and not many people will have seen a Sway before, here's a Sway that I've worked on with my third years sort of over the lockdown period. How it works, it's really ingenious. The pupils only need a web browser to view it. So it can be viewed on phones, tablets, it can be viewed inside the Teams or on a website, and it shouldn't really affect the document all that much. This one here, I've got to perform sort of just like a web page so that they can scroll through it. And it makes it really easy just to see information that's images, there's information that's text, or as we move through, we can see I've embedded in plenty of YouTube videos. So it kind of fills that void in between a Word document and a PowerPoint. So working through that, this was sort of several weeks worth of work, but it's really, really, really quick to make, and it's really easy to do, which I'll have a wee look at in a second. Now, the other thing that you can do with Sway is it links really well into Teams. So my Sway is as a tab in Teams. I've got that at the top of one of the channels, so the kids know exactly where it is. The other thing that's really useful is you can embed forms. So here at the end of this small learning episode, we can move on to some questions, and I can ask the kids to fill out the form. And they fill that in, and I can get a bit of feedback of how the kids got on at that stage of their learning. As you move on, again, it's easy to keep going. Inserting the text in videos is nice and simple. And again, something that I did upload was a lesson on projectiles. I think Sarah's going to talk a wee bit more about recording yourself over PowerPoint. This was one that I saved as a video, and I uploaded it straight into Teams, straight into the Sway, and that worked really well as well. So in terms of setting up Sway, this is kind of what the dashboard looks like, and you can create a new one. You can create it completely blank. You can start from a topic, which I'll show you. I tried this out earlier on. If you're wanting to talk about space, and you hit create outline, it will pull the sort of main topics about space from Wikipedia, and it will give you a template where to start, which could be really useful for your BGE kids or your kids at younger years, where they kind of sit and stare at a screen and say, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know where to start. So I really liked it. The other thing about Sway is, if I go to create a new one, Sway handles all the formatting and all the moving about of icons itself. It does that all for you. So we all know the difficulty in setting kids a PowerPoint to do, and they spend a full half an hour just doing the title page. Sway kind of addresses that for you. You set one theme, and I'm hoping this will open up. You set one theme, and it will handle that the whole way through. So if I go to start from here, you can set your design, hopefully, and it will follow that theme the whole way through it. It doesn't seem to be playing ball, but if we go back to it. So if we title another couple of things just before we move on, if you title it, say, on the solar system, as you're working, I'll just move that out of the way. As you start, usually on the left-hand side, if I'm wanting to add an image, it'll start suggesting what it thinks you're talking about. So you can see the first one there is the solar system, and it will pull images off the internet that I might want to use. So there's one there, and I can add that. It'll also let you add multiple at a time. So there's a couple, and that one, and you add them all, and you have them down the side. Now, these images, or this sort of layout, this is called, it would be the equivalent to your slides in PowerPoint, but it's called cards inside of Sway. Now, Sway has lots of interesting features that you can play about with yourself, but you can stack these images on top of each other and make them kind of into flashcards, or you can have them arranged vertically, which is what I had in my previous one. Should be here. Nope. You can have them arranged vertically so that when you scroll through it, it's just like reading a web page. The default is actually to go horizontally, which can be a bit of a nightmare. It scrolls across the page. So again, I just thought I would share that with you. It might be useful for people in this for distance learning. Okay, Drew, I think that's me, if anyone has any questions.
Okay, that's great. I've used Sway, not for a long time actually, with kids at all sorts of levels, and it is an ideal tool for research tasks, as much because the research tools are built into the package. So as Rory said, when you start typing, it's like the system is trying to figure out what you're doing, and it suggests all sorts of other content that you can add. So it will encourage you to embed videos from YouTube on your topic. It'll encourage you to embed links to Wikipedia and things like that, which I suppose in a sense could be seen as a kind of plagiarist's charter, but it allows you to discuss the ideas of passing off other people's content as your own with your students to encourage them to be quite selective in what they include.
Yeah,
there are some questions coming up. Sorry, on you go, Rory.
No, I'm saying absolutely. It's the built-in search bar at the side, and when you add a new card, the ability to add text or media and being able to search for it straight away inside the app is really useful, and the kids take to it really well. It can be quite daunting, all the copying and pasting they're used to doing. Something that I also seen quickly that was asked in the chat is, can you link it straight to PowerPoint? I've not managed to do that successfully. You can start a Sway off of a Word document, but that's another thing that I found. If it's quite a short Word document, it works quite well. If it's a bit lengthier, Sway gets into all sorts of problems and doesn't want to do it. So it's a kind of sometimes.
Right, there's another question there from David, which is, can you enter equations directly into Sway? It's not something I've tried, and I don't have an answer to that. I'm wondering if anybody else has an experience of that.
It's not something. Yeah, it's not something I've tried. But I would imagine copying and pasting.
Yeah, I suspect there'd be a workaround where you could grab images or something similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll certainly look into
so
it.
I see we're overrunning a little bit. So it's probably an idea if we could get on to our last presenter, Sarah, who is going to talk to us about PowerPoint Recorder and Wakelet. So if I can switch the controls to Sarah. Then
Sarah will know whether you can do group things on Sway as well.
Yeah.
You can, yes.
You should have the controls now, Sarah.
Yeah, I should have it now. You can share a collaboration link and pupils can work together on it. So you could put out a sway for the class and you could have maybe 5 of them working together on a sway. Can you check if you can see my PowerPoint okay?
We can.
Yeah.
Yep, just making sure before I start. I'm very aware that I'm slightly over and everybody will be wanting to finish up for the day. So I will go through this hopefully quite quick. I have been using PowerPoint Recorder for our lessons for our students. I'm not a physicist. You might see that by the slide that I've got there. But the feedback we're getting from our students is they're finding it much easier to watch a 10-15 minute video than they are to try and access a PowerPoint. So what we're doing is using the existing information and slides and PowerPoints that we've got in our department already, editing them, taking out something that's maybe too wordy, and then recording our voice over the top of it. We are then saving that as a video and then uploading that to the team, or it could be uploaded to, if you're using Flipgrid, or it can be uploaded to a YouTube channel. It actually could be uploaded into a sway as well. So if it's your video, you could put your videos into the sway and then have a form afterwards to check for understanding. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you need this little recording tab at the top. So this is if you're using Windows 10. If you're on a Mac, it is a slightly different one, but you can still do it. But what you want to do first of all is if you go into File, and then down the bottom, if you click on Options, and you go to Customize Ribbon, what you can then do is over on the right hand side, if you scroll down, there should be an option that says Recording. If you don't have that, I'd recommend making sure that your Office is up to date on the desktop. Just update it and that should appear. And once the recording tab appears, here you get some more options: record slideshow, screenshot, screen recording, which I'll have a look at, and export to video. So what you're going to want to be doing is, I've just got 3 slides here. If you click record slideshow, then what will happen is it should take us to a new window that has got the black edge round. What you'll see down at the bottom now, there's a couple of options. You want to make sure your microphone is turned on. You can turn on or off the camera, which it won't work just now because I'm using the camera for this webinar, but you can have a little video of yourself in the corner, although it does make the file quite big and it can be quite off-putting. Not off-putting for the students, it can be distracting for the students having kind of a little video going on in the corner of it too. There are a couple of options down here too, that you have a pen that you can use and you have a highlighter. And if you're wanting to record some audio over the top, all you do, just make sure that your microphone is on down the bottom. You click record, it will give you a little countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then you just say what you want over the top. You can pause it at any point and take a wee minute, see what you want to say next, and then you can record again. And when you're finished talking, you click stop on it. You can then go on to your next slide. You do the same thing. It gives you another countdown. And if there's anything specific that you want to highlight, you can use your mouse. I'll do it in blue. And you can highlight a couple of words. You could underline some things. You could point out a specific structure on it, and that will all show up as well. And what I'm actually finding useful in video too is on the next slide, I leave a blank slide in. Now, if you get, so I have a blank slide here, and when I click my record this time, what I maybe want to do is give them some of the key words. I maybe want to give them a little diagram of, well, it's biology, so it's going to be a little cell that's there, and give them maybe an instruction on what you want them to go on and do next. So you can use it as a whiteboard as well. Now, once you have finished, if you make a mistake, don't worry, you don't have to record the whole thing again. If you just go up to here, you can clear your recording on the current slide that you're on. Be very careful you don't clear the recordings on all the slides. And when you're finished, you just press X and it takes you back to the PowerPoint. And what you should see, when it closes down, is there's a little icon at the bottom there, which is your sound that you've recorded over. Now at the very end, what you can do is, so I've got my PowerPoint here, I've added my audio onto it, and if you just export to video, what that then does is it gives you this option. So it's creating a video that you're doing here. We've already recorded our timings and our narration. You get an option about the file. I usually bring it down to maybe an HD or a standard one. That'll bring the file size down for you as well, depending on how much detail is in your slide. And then you click create video, and it will then start saving it as an MP4. Oh, have I stopped sharing my screen? You'll then be able to save it as a MP4 file. You can then add that, as I said, to YouTube or any other platforms that you're using for your videos. There is also an option for screen recording too. So what you can do with screen recording is, if I just insert a new slide, I'll just insert a blank slide here. If I go to, recording, and I go to screen recording, it will open up another page. So I'll open up all of you guys. So I select the screen that I want, and then I just click record. Again, it will give me click record. It should give me a little countdown. It's a little bit slow doing this because it's doing about 5 different things at once. But you can do your audio, you can have a pointer on it as well. It's not recording for some reason at the moment, but it will record anything else, so other than a PowerPoint. So it just does a screen recording of a web page or anything else, and this little toolbar stays up the top. Right, now to try and get out of this. There, oh, now it's doing it. I'll just come back out of there. So that was a very, very quick run through of Recorder in PowerPoint. The other tool that I was to show, I can only apologise, my computer's now just freezing, and I'm trying to go onto the web link, and nothing is happening to show you the Wakelet. Sorry, bear with me. Because I'm trying to do a slideshow and a record at the same time, if I close this down, hopefully then I should be able to take you to Wakelet. So Wakelet is a web curation tool. You just go to wakelet.com and you can create an account for yourself. You can share with students. They do not need to have an account. And I used it first of all to save all the tweets that I came across on the internet that were useful to me, that I didn't know where to put them. So I sent them all to Wakelet. I now have a whole variety of them that have got documents in it, links to websites. So it's a tool where you can add lots of web links, documents, videos, and put them in one place. Very similar to Sway. Maybe give you a little bit more links to outside websites. So what you've got is, this is just a new Sway that I have, a new Wakelet that I have created, and when you click add, you can then add in any of these media there. You can add text, you can add YouTube links, tweets, as I've said, that's how I started using it. You can upload images, PDFs, or a file that is stored in OneDrive. And for anybody that's using Flipgrid, you can record a video straight into it as well, but that's a whole nother webinar. You literally just copy and paste any web address in there, or add your text. So one example that I have is for the example that you're going to get shared out to you is the Institute of Physics one that has been made up. And you can see here that Andrew has added in text. He has got links to specific web pages. He has got links to people's Twitter, and he's also added in lots of videos in there as well. In terms of how I've been using it in class, particularly with remote learning, is if I'm wanting to send out lots of information. If I wanted to send out a forum and then a link to a website, my students at the moment are creating a research task on stem cells. So they've got to, for the higher humans. So I've given them an instruction on what they're going to do. I then uploaded a screen image of what the task is. I uploaded a picture of the rubric, how we're going to assess it, and then they've got a link to a couple of web pages. They've got BBC Bite Size there, there's a video for them to watch, there's another web page there, and then there's a PDF for them. So this is where they're going to go to gather their information. Now, ordinarily, before I kind of came across Wakelet, I would be sending out 4, 5, 6 different links, and they would have to click on them all. What I do now is I add those web links to the Wakelet, and when I want to share with pupils, I click share. It then generates a web address. I can then copy that and I can paste that anywhere. I can paste it in an assignment. I can paste it in a chat in a team. I can put it in an email. I can stick it on a website, a school website, anything. And for tools for trying to give them lots and lots of different links together, it just makes it much easier to share with them. We've also used it for when we were doing some exam revision. This one probably will work. We wanted them to watch a video and then complete a form on it. So again, we had the summary document there as a PDF. There was then a video from YouTube that we added. We then had a form for them to fill in, and then they went on to the next one. So they just worked their way through it. Video form, video form, video form. Now this was set for an assessment where there was lots of information that they were revising for. But it's definitely something where you can add lots of various different links and then share it out with just one link. And what you end up with is a whole load of organized links all over the place. And you can see that's what I've got there. When you are sharing, just one thing to point out, just come back out here. You can have contributors. So when you share your link, you can add one where this is just a link for everybody to view it. You can go into contributors and you can share links, so different members of a department could work on one together and it would send out a link to them. There is now an option for pupils to have a Wakelet inside your one, but to be honest, that then gets really, really confusing for the students just now, especially if it's a new tool. The only thing to remember is the setting for how you see it. You can change it into a PDF. Your visibility is whether or not you want it to be public, unlisted or private. If it's private, the sharing link won't work. All my school ones are classed as unlisted, so people don't find them unless I have shared the link with them. So it's just having a little look, having a little play with it, and it's for anybody that I know has seen it, used it, and has said it's extremely useful. And there is also Immersive Reader built into it as well. So if you have got pupils that are struggling to read, the Immersive Reader is there and it will read it out to them.
You are going to create a present.
I don't know if you'll hear that sound on it. So it has got Immersive Reader built into it as well. And I think that is me done very quickly.
That's excellent. Thank you very much, Sarah. Do we have any questions about any of that? I've shared the link, but managed to mistype the word link in the chat, and that will be shared on the CLPL group in Talk Physics. But if anybody has any other questions, I'd be only too happy to hear them just now.
There's two, I sent you a link as well. There's two, the Microsoft Educator community has got links to lots of different courses. One's on Sway, one's on Teams. There's ones on Wakelet, and I would recommend if people want to go and then do that and do the course. You know, it can take you anything from 20 minutes, half an hour, up to an hour and a half, depending on the course, just to kind of take you through all the different features of it in a wee bit more detail as well.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Question there from Mrs. Campbell about adding Wakelet, Flipgrid, etc. to Teams. Is that a possibility?
Yes, I add my Wakelets. You just copy that link and put it straight in the chat, or you can add it as a tab at the top of the team, or you can add it into an assignment. If you are using Flipgrids, again, it's just you add a website. So I know when Andrew, I think on your one, Andrew, you showed how to add a tab at the top of the team.
Yeah, that's right.
A website that you add. So there's not any integration, because of Glow, there's not any integration with Wakelet or Flipgrid like you get in other places. So we just link ours as websites, and it seems to all be working fine that way.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your participation. I'm just going to hand back to Stuart now. And thanks again to our presenters for the work they've done this afternoon. It's been really, really helpful.
Right. Thanks, Drew. Yeah, I can only second that. Obviously, the session has overrun a little bit. It was due to be an hour, and we're almost at an hour and a half. So it's pleased to see that we've still got 75 people here. So that's, I think, an excellent sign that people have been finding it very, very useful. There are just one or two things that I want to do to finish off. I'll just share my screen, because inevitably we require a little bit of evaluation. Those of you that have joined previous IOP sessions will hopefully know that the evaluation is just a few very short multiple choice questions, but very much appreciate if you could have a go at filling that in and give us feedback about the session today, how valuable you felt that it was to help you teach. But also there is a comment section at the end, so please fill in details there for topics that you would like support on in the future, or if there are subsequent questions and things that you would like to ask, you can stick them in the feedback form, but also please continue the discussion on Sputnik or Talk Physics as well. As Drew explained at the beginning, we will be including the recording of this session, so if there are things that you want to go back and check how people were doing, please check the recording, but it will take probably a day or so to get that processed and up. And again, if there are things that you want to share, links to other resources and things like that, please share that through Talk Physics. We'll send out an email after the event as well with further details, and I will include the link to the evaluation on that email as well. So it only really leaves me to say thank you to the presenters. I think it's been a really informative session. So thanks to Drew and Andrew as the coaches for coordinating it, pulling it together. I think Callum and Rory and Sarah have done an absolutely fantastic job in terms of showing how some of the various Microsoft tools can actually be used.
Really good.
I do know that a few people on here have signed up for tomorrow's session as well. It will be on Google Tools. I appreciate that people will probably be either Google or Microsoft, depending on what your school or local authority policy is. But there is a session tomorrow afternoon on that. And I would like to remind you that starting next week are the virtual physics teacher summer school sessions that IOP Scotland is organising in partnership with CERC. The booking for that is through the CERC website, through the CERC CLPL website. So please, if you're interested in these ones, there will be another two at the beginning of June as well. But on screen, you should be seeing the first two that come up next week and the following week. So I'll stop sharing my screen now, and it's just leaves me to thank you for your attendance today and your attention for a good hour and a half. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a good day.